Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Umineko. I believe the last thing we were at was that they found a kids program for Maria to watch. We saw some spooky shapes on the door made out of blood, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's spooky," and I was like, "Calm down, guys. He was probably Kumasawa-san, and it wasn't anything creepy like a witch." Right? Anyway. Back from my little bit of a hiatus. Thank you guys so much for watching and commenting over it. And I do agree. Somebody had said at one point, you know, they really do like the more live versions of these recordings where I make it like the day of or the day before, because it actually influences what I'm doing. I do like them a bit better that way. And trying to think of anything else. I'm going to try to keep doing these on a regular basis. I think I've got it worked out where right now where I can do my 2 regular series I'm going to be doing, and then I can do this every other day is how I think I can do it. New series will be starting soon. I just got to wait for the game to come in the mail, and that should be fun as well, I'm thinking. Anyway, let's continue on with this story. Battler and Jessica were making fun of the kids' program at every turn, cackling. George was enjoying the program along with Maria. Nanjo sat on the sofa by himself, passing time by reading quietly. They heard hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. They were footsteps from a single person. Did that mean that it wasn't the group of 4 that had just left? Genji was the one who had returned. It was very rare for Genji, who considered being out of breath a violation of a servant's virtues, to be gasping for air. He had probably come dashing back from outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet, and he didn't have his usual smart appearance. When Genji noticed Nanjo looking at him, he gave a small silent bow and quickly approached him.
Nanjo-sensei, 申し訳ございません。至急お越しください。何事ですかな?
As Genji whispered something into Nanjo's ear, Nanjo's face changed color. He stood from the sofa, trying not to be noticed by the children who were still engrossed by the TV. And the 2 of them rapidly left the parlor, muffling their footsteps. Just when they were about to leave the parlor, they came across Natsui, who was pushing a serving cart loaded with a tea set. Genji whispered something into Natsui's ear, and Natsui's face too changed color, shocked. Then, leaving the serving cart where it was, the 3 of them started dashing towards the entrance. George noticed them running down the rose garden through the window.
なんだろう。源氏さんと南條先生と、あれは夏日おばさんかな。
Oh man, it's like everyone's going crazy.
どうしたんだよ、兄貴。
何かあったのかな。ひどい慌てようだったね。
Jessica and Maria also realized that something had happened from the fact that Eva, Hideyoshi, and Nanjo were no longer in their seats. And because the serving cart had been abandoned in the entrance to the parlor.
何か事故でもあったとか?
行ってみようぜ。
They're gonna come over here. What happened, guys? I can't speak. Come look at shiny words and funny symbols on wall.
面白くねえしな。
For some reason, what Battler had said sounded extremely indiscreet. But they couldn't deny that they were a little insecure and concerned after seeing the adults run off into the rain regardless of appearance.
行ってみようぜ。何があったか気になるぜ。
Jessica's insecure words spoke for all of them.
おい、マリア。お前も来るか。それともテレビを見てるか。
うん。マリアはテレビがいい。うん。
僕たちだけで行こう。
What is wrong with you, Maria? This is like literally the most witch-filled time we've ever had here, and you want to watch TV?
マリアちゃん、すぐ戻るからね。テレビを見て待ってるんだよ。
Unless, of course, she's behind it all. Dum bum bum. And we're running outside in the rain. By the time the kids went outside, they had lost sight of the adults, who had left earlier. But it looked like Jessica had a pretty good idea of where they had gone from the direction they had been running. Following Jessica, we ran through the rain-soaked rose garden. It felt like the wind suddenly got stronger. The malicious sound of thunder began to ring out like it had the previous night. It felt like an eerie something had surrounded the island and was trying to stop us from moving forward.
ジェシカ、この先には何があるんだ？
確か園芸道具なんかの倉庫があったはずだぜ。
Well, why don't we go check it out?
そんなところに一体何があるんだろうね。
Just as Jessica had said, they began to see a storehouse in front of them. They could also see the adults there. The shutter to the storehouse was open, and several adults looked as though they were searching for something. For some reason, only Natsui was outside the storehouse. Without even holding an umbrella, she looked like she was hanging her head, and her back was facing them. Genji, Nanjo, and Natsui, who had just left. Since Kanon, Eva, and Hideyoshi, who had left earlier, were also there, it appeared as though there was a large gathering of people, but there was absolutely no bustle of activity. When Natsui realized that the children had come, a terrible expression rose to her face, and she ran at them with her arms spread wide. Scary paint! Stay away, children! However, no. Because of that, the kids saw that scene which Natsui was trying to keep them away from. Inside the storehouse, with the shutter wide open, a flickering fluorescent light shone down. And over there... Whoa, that was unexpected. Jessica's piercing shriek ran out. Did we find something in the storehouse? But that was just because Jessica's scream was the loudest. The same thing spilled out of Babbler and George's mouths as well. Eva, just like Natsui, spread her arms and with a terrible expression roared at the kids.
Georgie!
When Natsui had spread her arms, I thought that she was trying to prevent any of us from advancing further. However, right now, that wasn't why Eva was spreading her arms. She was trying to hide that terrible scene from the kids. It was her mother's heart, trying to protect the eyes and hearts of his children by attempting to block our view of that terrible scene by at least the width of one of her arms. Oh, blood. That's a lot of blood. In manga, TV, anime, and movies, I had seen it over and over again. This was just... seeing something appear... Whoa, I'm liking this music a lot. Seeing something appear in real life that I had seen plenty of times before in some of those more sensational movies, wasn't it? That alone shouldn't... but that suit... it's the old man, isn't it? I get it then. That's Cross Oji-san's... and Kiri-san, and Rosa-san, oh! Aunt Natsui caught Jessica by her arms, and Aunt Eva caught George Aniki. So, I was the only one who could approach the entrance to the storehouse. If only there had been someone there to catch me too. I wouldn't have needed to have this horrible, evil scene burned into my eyes. No, that's not it. It isn't that there's no one here to catch me. The people who should catch me, they're right there, aren't they? Just as Jessica had said, it did look like a storehouse used to keep gardening tools. A lawnmower with extra blades. A grass sickle and a hammer. A saw and some construction tools. Piled up potted plants and bags of fertilizer. And treated just the same, the corpses of several people that had just been laid to rest there. No, had been thrown in there. I could tell them by their clothes. That old man in Kirie-san, Cross Oji-san, and Aunt Rosa. Beyond that, Goda-san, and there's still more of them? How many people died? You're kidding me. I can't even count them on one hand. I didn't know whether it had been one of those gardening tools which, if used for something other than their intended purpose, could definitely be wielded with a naked brutality. Or whether some horrible tool had been brought in here specifically for this. Anyway, the bodies which had been tumbled into here, each of them had been given an atrocious makeup. It wasn't makeup, it was more like their faces had been plowed. Their faces were smashed, forced into an expression that a normal person couldn't make even after death. I couldn't tell where the eyes or the noses were, but I could find their mouths, because they were gaping wide, the ridges of their teeth exposed. But their front teeth were missing, and even the cheek that should have been covered, that was all torn up and exposed. Even as a man, the stylish makeup that I thought worried about was all useless.
バトラさん、これ以上見てはいかん。こんな姿をお父さんもお母さんもあんたに見せたいわけがない。お父さんとお母さんのためにもこれ以上見てはいかん。
死者ってのは安らかに眠る顔ってやつを拝ませてくれるんじゃねえのかよ。顔がねえんだよ。俺の親父とキリエさんの顔がねえんだよ。どういう顔して死んじまったのか。なんだよ俺は。親父たちのことを思い出すときはこのくちゃくちゃの化け物みてえな顔をいつも思い出せたのかよ。そいつが最高だぜ。クソ親父がニヤニヤとした顔を思い出さなくていいんだからよ。最高だぜ最高だぜ。でもよ、キリエさんの顔くらいはいいだろう。キリエさんの悪党じゃねえ。たまにはムカつくと思ったけどよ。ちょいとかっこいい俺の姉気分だったお人じゃねえかよ。こんなのってねえよ。クロスおじさんなんかまだマシじゃねえか。顔面じゃなくて側面だぜ。少なくとも顔半分は残ってるじゃねえかよ。まだマシだぜまだマシだぜ。
Wow, this is exciting. Trying to shut out my reckless words, Jessica tried to fill her ears with the sound of her own screaming.
よすんだバトラ君。もうよすんだ。もうよすんだ。兄貴兄貴。
Disregarding age and appearance, I fell to my knees, clinging to Aniki's waist and sobbing. It was as if I was crying on behalf of everyone there. Representing the feelings of everyone there, I screamed over and over. Well, that was an exciting turn of events, to be sure. So, yeah. Someone killed a lot of people here.
お父さん倒れているのはクラウスおじさん、 ルドルフおじさん、キリエおばさんに、ローザおばさん、ゴーダさんで5人。
いや、6人や。ここにもう一人おる。
The body that Hideyoshi was looking down on now was hidden in the shadows of a mountain of random objects, in a blind spot to George, who stood by the entrance. So George couldn't tell whose body it was. Therefore, George cursed himself. He cursed himself for always imagining the worst.
じゃあ、お父さんの足元に倒れているのは、シャノンなんだね。
So I have a strange suspicion that this is what the thing was talking about where it said two lovers are going to be torn apart or something?
ああ、シャノンちゃんや。
Literally torn? George was completely silent. He shook slightly, his lower lip trembling. He wanted to run up to his beloved, screaming and crying. But before rashly running up to her, he mustered up all his strength and asked his father,
シャノンも、クラウスおじさんたちと同じなのかな。
Hideyoshi deeply understood the meaning of those words. So he couldn't give George an answer. No, he thought that, to George, right now, that was the only possible sincere and loving response. When George had asked whether she was the same, he had meant to ask whether her body was the same as the others. Since Hideyoshi hadn't denied it, it meant that the body was just as horrible.
シャノンを見てもいいかな。
いや、あかん。
どうして？だって、もう二度とシャノンの顔を見られないんだよ。その、最後の顔、どうして見たらいけないんだよ。
お前が最後にシャノンちゃんに会ったのは昨日か。
うん。
そうか。そのシャノンちゃんは、別れ際にお前にどんな顔を見せたんや。
素敵な笑顔だったよ。
After receiving the ring, she was bewildered even though her heart should have been decided. Bashful, and running away because she was too shy to show him that face. That expression was revived in George's mind.
そうか。ならシャノンちゃんも、その笑顔をお前に残したいと願うはずや。
Hideyoshi looked down upon Shannon's body lying at his feet. Just like the other bodies, it was in such a horrible state that it would want to make anyone want to cover their eyes. Half of the face had been smashed off, and no more than half of her expression remained. If the remaining half, soaked red with blood, had been wiped clean, that graceful smiling face might have peeked out. Only half of it. Without thinking, Hideyoshi slapped his hands over his eyes. How cruel. Even though it was smashed, if only all of it had been crushed, he might have been able to deceive George's heart for a while by saying that it was just someone else wearing Shannon's clothes. Even so, half of the face was left. It caused the body so much humiliation, and it also made it clear that this body wasn't someone other than Shannon. How inhumane, how unjust. Trying his best to burn the image of the remaining half of Shannon's expression into his eyes was Cannon. Cannon was not crying. Tears had risen to his eyes, but they did not drip down. But that didn't mean that he wasn't feeling as much sadness as everyone else. Losing Shannon, who had lived with him in the same orphanage, whom he had loved as a sister, must have been just the same as losing a blood relative.
ジョージ、シャノンちゃんはきっと、ありがとう言うてるぞ。お前に 恥ずかしいところを見られとうなかったんや。きっとお前が耐えてくれたこと感謝しとるで。
わかってる。わかってるよ、父さん。わかってるよ。
George leaned against the outside wall of the storehouse, sinking down powerlessly.
父さん、頼みがあるんだ。
なんや。
僕の代わりに見てほしいんだ。シャノンは指に指輪をつけてるかな？
指輪？ちょいと見てみる。
Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Cannon silently pointed to one of Shannon's hands.
ああ、あるで。こりゃ、ダイヤの指輪。
Aww. I mean, kind of sucks because she's dead now, but aww.
クズダイヤとちゃう。なかなかの値打ちもんや。
それは、どっちの手の、どの指にあるのかな？
と、左手の薬指や。そっか、シャノンちゃん、婚約しとったんか。
ジョージ、あなた、まさか。
エヴァ、今はそんなん関係ないで。シャノンちゃんは男に将来を約束されとったんや。一生を幸せにしちゃると男に言わせたんや。それが誰かは問題とちゃうで。男にそこまで言わしめて女の本懐やないか。いつこの指輪をもらったんかは知らん。誰が渡したかも知らん。だがそれでもシャノンちゃんは指輪をもらえたんや。そしてそれを受け入れ左の薬指に通したんや。指輪を送った男もきっと喜んだんとちゃうか。
To most of the people there, Hideyoshi was simply disturbed by this extraordinary situation, and was blurting out strange things. But, to those who knew the truth about George and Shannon's relationship, everything he said made sense.
そっか。ありがとう、父さん。
George stood up. The traces of tears still streaked his face, but his expression had returned to its usual calm.
行こう。バトラ君、ジェシカちゃん。これ以上、僕たちがここにいると、大人の邪魔に。
そうだな。
Jessica sniffled once, and showed her mother, who had been holding her the whole time, her face, trying to say that she was all right. When she faced George again, she once again had on her usual face, although she still couldn't smile.
バトラー、しっかり。
Battler kept on crouching in front of his parents' bodies.
すまねえな。がっつり泣いたら落ち着いたぜ。親父の野郎。普段はクソクソ言ってるくせに。ちょっと死んじまったくらいでピーピー泣くんじゃねえぜって。笑ってやがれ。仕方ねえだろ。親が死んだら泣くように。遺伝子すり込まれちまってんだからよ。
Battler's face was still bright red from the tears, but even if it was a bitter smile, he had at least recovered enough to fake a smile.
カノン、お前もこれ以上ここにいてはいけません。子供たちを連れてお屋敷に戻っていなさい。
Natsui, unable to take a step into the storehouse, had been standing under the rain the whole time. Maybe she had her own way of grieving, different from Battler's. She realized that she had to take on a sense of responsibility now that her husband was dead. So, she gave Cannon those orders.
はい、奥様。
Cannon rose silently and turned to face her. His face was pure white, almost as though his own heart had died along with Shannon. There was no life in his expression. Was there ever really? On an ordinary day, if he had been told to guide the children through the rose garden, Cannon would have led the way and guided them. But now, there was no distinction between Cannon and the children. They were now just kids about the same age, with wounds of having lost someone close to them. Natsui ordered Genji to see that the children returned.
現地すぐに警察に連絡しなさい。台風が通り過ぎるまでは来られないでしょうが、どうすればいいか。
Can we really contact the police because the phones are out?
わかりました。防災用の無線機
Oh, okay, that's convenient.
それで連絡
I mean, we could resort to smoke signals. When she heard that, Natsui remembered. That's right, the telephones were out today, weren't they? However, since it had assumed that there could be trouble with the phones on this isolated island, a radio had been installed that probably won't work for some reason, I imagine. Anyway, let's contact the police and receive their instructions. Everything else can wait.
ナチョ先生、もうこの場は。
Not really.
残念ながら
He's a doctor, not a witch doctor.
私には何もできませんな。
わかりました。源氏、せめて主人たちの顔を何かで覆ってやることはできませんか。このような姿を晒すことも当人にとっても屈辱的でしょうか。
はい。
No one seems to be worried about someone or something that could have possibly killed all of them and brought them in here. Which I find kind of odd. I mean, I would imagine with kids on this island and with the vast number of people that were killed that you would be vastly worried that something terrible is happening. Like either, at the very least, let's just drop supernatural out of it, you know, the whole witch thing. At the very least, there's some crazy maniac who's like slashing people's faces open. Genji picked up several dried towels from inside the storehouse. When Eva stopped him in a shrill voice.
ちょっとちょっと、お待ちなさいよ。ここは犯行現場なんでしょ。
Yeah, we're not technically supposed to...
なら変に手を加えちゃダメよ。私たちは混乱してて現場に土足で踏み入っちゃったけど、それはきっと警察の捜査の邪魔になったわよ。
Natsui glared at Eva, offended. Objectively speaking, Eva was right. For once. Even so, she glared at Eva as though accusing her of refusing to do those tragic corpses, which had been humiliated even after death, the simple kindness of covering their faces. However, Eva had spoken both calmly and correctly. This horrible state was definitely not an accident. It was a crime. Someone had killed them. It was a murder case. In that case, they should be careful not to further disturb the site. They had to aid the police at least this much, so that they might hand over a clue that could be used to find the detestable culprit.
私もエヴァさんに賛成ですな。警察が来るまでここは手をつけずにしておくべきです。奥様、いかがなさいますか。
そうですね。わかりました。ここを閉ざしなさい。それから念のためここに別の施錠をするように。
別の施錠？
ええ、ここに来た時シャッターの鍵は閉じていました。ということはシャッターの鍵を使い犯人が施錠したということです。
確かに通りや。じゃあここを開けた限り犯人の指紋が残ってるんとちゃう
It could. I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
警察に証拠として提出する価値はあるでしょうけど、カノン君が普通に持ってここを開けるのに使用しちゃったわ。
Cannon. What if it was all a setup? What if Cannon did it?
カノン君の指紋も付着しちゃってるわよ。そしてその鍵はさっき源氏さんに手渡され、源氏さんも素手で受け取ってる。
Very suspicious.
大した証拠にはなりそうにないわね。
それは不用心でした。申し訳ございません。
源氏さん、この倉庫の鍵は他にもあるんか？
いいえ、この一つだけです。
ということは犯人はその鍵を使用人室から持ち出し、そして律儀に元の場所に戻したちゅうことになるな。
Hideyoshi's theory sounded plausible, but it was actually very strange if you thought about it. Why would they go to all the trouble of returning a key they stole? No. If you think about it even more deeply, there are some even more bizarre points. Usually, when a criminal hides the body, they're trying to delay the point at which it will be found and use that time to escape. The actual place where the 6 were killed wasn't necessarily here, but it was normal to think that they had been killed somewhere on the island, carried to the storehouse, and hidden to delay the discovery of the crime. But that graffiti drawn on the shutter that looked like an eerie magic circle had eloquently indicated that the corpses were hidden here. It didn't specifically say that they were here, but after 6 people had gone missing, by making such an obvious scribble and even returning the key to open it, it seemed almost as though someone had wanted the corpses to be discovered here. Suspicious indeed. We're gonna leave it off for there today. Everything got very exciting. Like I said, I'm going to try to do every other day is the goal I'm aiming for right now. Someone also asked, why don't you make longer videos? There's a couple reasons. One, they take longer to upload, which isn't the worst of the problem, but it is a little bit of an annoyance. 2-hour-long videos, which is what it would be if I did go longer, are a little bit harder to navigate through. And I just don't have quite enough time to do that long of videos. So I'll probably still be doing the half-hour videos, though. Occasionally, if I do have time, I may do 2 half-hour videos. That might be how that works. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. And come back next time for more Umineko, where maybe we find out who the culprit was, or maybe more people died. Maria, we come back and she's probably not watching TV. She's in on it all. And Cannon with that look on his face. And maybe George set up the whole engagement thing just to throw everybody off. There's an idea. Anyway. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!